record this meeting, so I'm going to do that before we get going here. So there will be a question and answer period today. Just so you know, we've had some questions in advance, which we will be addressing at the end of the session. And as you've already seen, there is a chat feature in Zoom. So please feel free to ask any questions that you have, which we will address at the end of the evening under the Zoom chat. If you can go to the chat mode, you'll have an option to ask a question directly to someone, but we prefer if you ask it to everyone. So the default is asking the question to everyone. That way all the panelists can read your question, and that way we can decipher who's going to best answer your question on behalf of the team here. So and that question and answer period will happen at the end of the meeting. So so again, my last point actually in my welcome was to kind of bear with us if we have by any chance any technical issues. So hopefully we've resolved that already, and hopefully we can have a good meeting. So if I can control my screen. Okay, so so our agenda tonight is going to be as follows. We're going to have some department updates. First of all, with our community grounds superintendent, Jerry Hackers. He'll be followed by Sean Greco, our food and beverage manager. After Sean has finished, we are fortunate to have Toby Stoley from our new homes division. He is the director of housing and operations. So thank you, Toby, for attending tonight. Then we'll have a few words from our Owners Council Chair, Mr. Brian Morris. Then last but not least, we will have a financial update, the exciting part of the evening, which I will be speaking to, and we'll be speaking to our 2020 finances, our 2020 budget, and also our 2021 fee structure. And then last but not least, as I said previously, we'll have a question and answer period. So before I pass the floor over to Jerry Hackers, I definitely wanted to say 2020 has been an interesting year, to say the least. It's not just affected our community, it's not just affected our city, our province, our country, but this global pandemic has had a effect on the whole globe, which has obviously changed how we do business, not just here, but elsewhere. Here at RiverBend, it's been impactful. It's been impactful for our team, for our staff, and most importantly for you, the residents, where we've had to provide opportunities for you to enjoy the operations here in a safe manner. In March, when we were told that the pandemic was here, we had numerous residents who were away, who were in sunny pastures, who had to get back. People had to be creative in getting back home quickly and safely. And it was great to see all our residents return home safely. When our clubhouse closed down in mid-March, it definitely impacted our operations. First and foremost, our entire clubhouse did have to close down, which shut off some of our services. Sean's going to speak shortly in regards to food and beverage, where his team were very creative in pivoting to a new food and beverage service. It was a food and beverage delivery service, which we affectionately called RB Eats. And then we transitioned to RB Grocery. Both those services were appreciated by our residents who were quarantined when they first came back home, and who were able to safely order and enjoy some food in the clubhouse. Our grounds team, who typically get going in late March, early April, were delayed by about a month, which impacted obviously a number of our seasonal and permanent staff. Some of those seasonal staff we brought back on, and some of our permanent and seasonal staff we've unfortunately had to lay off permanently. So definitely an impact on our team members. Golf, and we are a golf community. I know not all of you are golfers here, but golf was also delayed by a few weeks. And this created some challenges for Kevin Collier and his team, where they weren't able to properly prepare the course. But kudos to our golf course team for able to provide a fabulous golf course this year under very different circumstances, with different cups, different flag sticks, We installed some waterless, like water fountains, preferred lies and bunkers that I know I personally enjoyed, and different services that we weren't allowed to do safely, in regards to benches, in regards to ball washes. Tyler Vallon and his golf operations team did a tremendous job, allowing our members to play golf in a safe fashion. He had to change people's how they come to the golf course, how they book tee times, and how many members can safely play. So it was great to see our golf operation be creative and find a way during a global pandemic for us to enjoy the golf course. Sean's going to speak briefly about how things transitioned in food and beverage, so I will leave that to him, but definitely kudos to his team to provide a patio service and an inside dining service that we can enjoy it like in a safe manner. In August, we were able to open our fitness facility. So thank you to Kristen Van Berkel. Obviously things have changed, and her protocols on the number of people who are allowed in the gym at certain times, how our gym users were able to book it. And it's obviously affected some of our classes that our members haven't been able to enjoy. But kudos to Kristen, who will still be able to provide virtual online teaching, virtual online training sessions. Tyler was able to have a virtual pro shop. So definitely kudos to those individuals for thinking outside the box. And last but not least, thank you to all our committees. Like we have a very engaged social committee who knew what was up against them, but they still managed to provide opportunities for our community to get together, albeit virtually. So thank you to Catherine Pike Walters and her extended committee, who've done an amazing job to always think outside the box, what activities we could do and currently do, and what we can do this coming winter. So overall, again, before I pass over to Jerry, I did want to thank everyone here for being here tonight. I wanted to thank you for your patience and understanding, and not just tonight, but throughout the last 6 months. It's been a challenging year for all of us, like with no playbook, no specific direction, and the lines changing week to week and month to month. And it will continue to change as we work towards like the coming winter and also next spring. And our mandate, just to be clear from the very outset, and I think the feedback we received has kind of confirmed that, is that we always wanted to provide a safe environment for you to enjoy the services at RiverBend and to ensure that you're getting value as a resident and member at RiverBend. So at this point, I would like to pass the screen over to Jerry. I'm just going to get Jerry unmuted here so he can, Jerry Hackers, who has been here for a number of years. I think he's been here, I think he's born here, Jerry, actually. So he's going to speak to community grounds and how that has worked in his department this year. So Jerry, I think you should be all set to go there. Okay.
There, testing, good to go? Can you hear me?
Good to go.
Okay. Thank you, Simon, and good evening and welcome to everyone. I do wish that we could present the AGM in person as in previous years, but again, this year has definitely been a different year. The beginning of 2020 was like no other. The novelty of COVID-19 had us wondering how it would impact our normal way of life and our operations here at RiverBend. We all were in uncharted waters. We faced some difficult challenges and decisions as we continue to mold our operations to adapt to the evolving requirements and restrictions of COVID-19. We feel that as a department and as a community, we took on these challenges and continue to have a successful year. Thank you for riding this COVID wave with us and understanding the challenges faced by all departments in this year. March 17th, a state of emergency was ordered by the provincial government, which meant only essential work could be performed. Only the security portion of our operations was allowed at this time. This meant that we were not allowed to perform any other regular maintenance, with the exception of snow removal. As a result of this mandate, as Simon mentioned, we had to lay off 3 full-time employees, which it's not very fun to do. As well, we had to delay the seasonal start of our staff until some clarity on the situation, or until we receive some clarity on the situation. In a normal year, we would have people start in the beginning of April and sort of the end of March. New information on this virus was coming out daily, so we had to change and map out a new way of addressing these challenges. On May 4th, the government allowed certain business units to reopen. We were very fortunate to be added to that list. We would need to follow strict guidelines outlined by the Ministry of Health. By this time, we were approximately 4 to 6 weeks behind compared to other seasonal startups. We were able to have our full-time staff return to a modified work schedule. This did also allow us to have some seasonal staff back and bring them back in a phased-in approach. The whole process took about 7 weeks to do until we reached our full workforce. We needed to ensure that this process was done safely and in a healthy manner. We implemented new protocols that saw no groups larger than 6, keeping physical distance at all times. We had to modify start times to make this work. We also held our morning meetings outside. We're allowed 1 person per cart safely. We added hand wash and sanitizing stations throughout the building. And sanitizing the equipment was the new norm. As you can imagine, with these protocols that we had in place, it did take a little bit longer to complete the task at hand. Due to the delay of the season this year, we decided to concentrate our efforts on mulching of the gardens, which resulted in significant cost savings in this area. We had several experienced staff that were returning, and it led to a more efficient outcome. It was also time to perform our seasonal startup of the irrigation system. Inspecting approximately 10,000 heads is no small task and usually takes 4 weeks to complete. Some areas of the irrigation system have been in the ground for over 18 years, almost as long as I've been at RiverBend. And they require continuous preventative maintenance. We also noticed several deficiencies in the system this year, and they were magnified as a seasonable. It was unseasonably hot this year in the spring, and it showed large areas of dry turf. Combine this with the delay of our fertilizer and weed spray applications, resulted in less than optimal conditions that you've come to expect. So it was a bit of a bumpy start, to say the least. Mother Nature, she helped us out a little bit, offering us with timely rainfalls, and we had some irrigation repairs. We did most of them. So we were able to improve the lawn conditions that you've come to expect from our department. One thing we can't forget is that mini twister that touched down too this year. Trees were plucked from the ground and others were toppled over. Roofing materials were scattered. Garage doors buckled. And it was great to see everybody come together as a community to help clean up and offer support to one another after this event. Throughout the pandemic, the gatehouse remained open, albeit with reduced staff and to allow for physical distancing. Along with reduced staff, certain services like parcel delivery and home check services had to be slightly modified. I hope everybody's pleased with the new gate system that we installed this year. The installation was definitely delayed somewhat this spring. We decided to withhold capital spending because we didn't know what the future held with this pandemic. So some things of the new gate system, they're able to read transponders more readily. So there's a bit of a seamless entry and exit for our residents now, which is awesome. The system also has a new feature that hopefully we don't have to use, but it has a new breakaway system on the gate, so that if somebody has contact the gate, it will fall off, but it will result in less maintenance costs for the year for sure. And as the community grows, so does the volume of traffic within. And our data collection shows that there's approximately 3,600 vehicles that pass through that gate every day, or every month, sorry. With this volume of traffic, we do ask that you take great care in that roundabout area, because as more people come on, and as we finish other phases, that area becomes very congested and very busy. And I know most of you don't like the speed bumps that we have throughout the community. However, it does provide good results in keeping the traffic to the posted speed limit. And also, you know, a new protocol we have for the concierge that they do notify all residents or all visitors of the speed limit within the community too, to ensure safe travel. And then the speed bumps, we will be removing them this fall for snow removal operations. We also added we also will be adding a second radar sign this fall. So it will aid in data collection within the community. And then through this collection of data, we can improve traffic calming measures for the future. And I don't know if some of the newer folks don't know, but we do have some video cameras in place that we installed last year. And they've been a welcome addition as well. So they allow our concierge to monitor traffic within the community, and they're able to see traffic approaching the gatehouse so that they can, quicker response for our guests and residents to exit the community. They also aid in our snow removal operations. I can look on remotely to see what the conditions are like at RiverBend, and then we're able to deploy our resources, our snow removal resources team in a timely manner. In addition, they also do provide added security to the community as we can look back at all the visitor access points and the grounds building and around the clubhouse as well. With most educational currently offered online, it's kind of we're very fortunate to have that for us, a little selfish, I guess, because then our summer students can stick around and help us out for the fall season. So that's definitely going to help with the fall cleanup to have that extra help. And then at this time too, we're also accepting requests for fall tree wrapping, the service that we provide, and the form can be found in Ben Bits. So this pandemic will surely affect our snowbirds, as Simon mentioned. They'll be sticking around. I think we anticipate a good majority of you that will remain in the community for the winter. And for some of you, it may be one of the first winters you spent in southwestern Ontario in a long time. So I'm just going to give you a little rundown on what you can expect from our team this winter. So we monitor the weather 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have a 2-inch minimum threshold before we deploy our team. So on a typical overnight snowfall, our team starts at between 2 and 3 a.m. We start clearing the roads and parking lots, and then we'll continue into the driveways. Pardon me. And then just once the roads are open up, we continue to the driveways. We also have the same shovel contractor as we had last year. They provided a great service to us or for us. And so they do the shoveling in front of your garage door, over in front of your steps, and as well a 4-foot path into your home. So again, we felt confident with them last year, and they did a great job. So we were going to continue with them this year. So the entire process takes between 8 and 12 hours to complete, depending on how much snowfall we receive. And it's once per 24-hour period. And generally we have some, for those of you who haven't been around for the winter, we do have some good snow squall events that come off the lake sometimes. And we will continue to communicate any of these events through email service so that you know where we are at and where we're starting and finishing, sort of thing. And our mandate basically through these extreme events is to make sure that the roadways are kept clear. We may leave the driveways for a little bit, but keep the roadways clear for the emergency vehicles to come through. But during any other regular event, we will rotate starting points throughout the community so that no one driveway is last to be cleared every time. So we rotate it through. We also offer an ice melt waiver so that if you don't want ice melt on your sidewalks or on your driveway, just there's a waiver that can be found in Ben Bits, and you just have to fill that waiver out and send it back to Tara. Again, we're never too far away if you require any assistance in the snow removal. We're here all the time, so you should be able to get through no problem. And again, on behalf of our grounds team, I'd like to thank everybody for their patience and understanding during this time, and the support as we navigate the pandemic together. And we're looking definitely forward to a brighter 2021 season. Thanks. Good evening.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, what your team does each and every day. The community looks wonderful and during a challenging year. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
So just a reminder, there's a couple people just raising their hands. So all questions will be addressed at the end of the meeting. To ask a question, please at any time use the chat feature in Zoom. Please type your name, who's asking a question, and please select the option of everyone to ask a question to, so all our panelists will be able to read the question. And this meeting and recording will be put on our website afterwards in the coming days for people to view, especially those who weren't able to come tonight. So next up, I would like to introduce our food and beverage manager, Sean Greco. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, albeit virtually. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving and staying safe during these challenging times. First slide here is a bit of an overview of the timeline this year with respect to COVID-19 and kind of highlights our restrictions, the stage openings, as well as the corresponding response by the Food and Beverage Department. Before I proceed, I want to take the opportunity to thank the entire Food and Beverage team who've excelled during what was obviously been a challenging situation for us all. Their dedication, commitment to providing a safe environment for our community should be commended. I also want to take an opportunity to thank members of the leadership team here at RiverBend and within Sifton, from the countless Zoom meetings to the collaboration and support. Since the onset, we were all in this together and support each other in any way we could. So special thanks to Simon, Jerry, and Tyler, who were always willing to lend a hand, even acting as our RB delivery team a few times during our busy feature night. So I'm sure a few residents made some comments about having Jerry and on Kevin and Simon and Tyler delivering to their door. So that was pretty neat. So I appreciate all their help. So I feel very fortunate to be part of such a special team of professionals. So thank you to them all. So 2020 year in review. So COVID-19, as we all know here, did not come with a playbook. And as such, we're required to adapt our operations continuously based on changing health guidelines and industry insight. So although 2020 did provide many challenges for us all, there have been many successes from our food and beverage operations team that we feel we can build from. To say that 2020 has been challenging year for us all may be an understatement. It has certainly altered how we operate and has forced us to be more adaptive and reactive to ever-changing situations. With restrictions this year, there was a significant financial impact as well on revenue due to the loss of banquets, weddings, and other group functions. This affected many revenue streams, including food sales, beverage sales, which are always cover our highest margins, and some room rental revenues. Although revenues were certainly impacted, many savings also occurred, obviously with some labor due to the 3-month closure, linen costs, and other kind of sales-related expenses. Financial impact has certainly been felt. As you know, COVID-19 restrictions resulted in all of our weddings and banquets either being canceled or deferred to 2021. In addition to this, we were also unable to host many large member dining events, which not only affected the socializing aspect for our community, but also impacted beverage sales. First on, I just want to touch on our COVID-19 response, some of the successes as well as the challenges. Quick reaction by implementing RB Eats program only days after the closure, and our consistent and cautious approach to health and safety protocols. We've been very proud of how our team responded quickly during this pandemic and how they continue to execute our health and safety protocols in these challenging times. Collaboration with industry colleagues to share best safe practices. We've been fortunate to have a great group of colleagues throughout the private club industry to confer with and share thoughts and ideas on how to best operate in a safe manner. Prioritizing the well-being of the staff, residents, members, and guests, and the resident confidence. So we've been very pleased to hear the many comments and the feedback from residents about how safe they feel coming to dine at the club, which is very positive from our aspect. Some challenges, there's been many. So obviously our constant changing situation and mandates. We continue to just adapt to the changing circumstances, which has provided challenges in how we communicate and we transition with these mandates we're given. Some added expenses regarding our safety supplies, our PPE, the mental health impact on our staff and residents. It's certainly been stressful for everyone, and it's definitely taken its toll on the mental well-being of many within the community. Our table and room configurations to ensure social distancing, that was definitely something that we kind of changed as we went along. It was what was comfortable for the members. I think many of you probably were up in the patio the first few weeks and saw probably 5 to 6 different table configurations on how we felt was going to work best. And then obviously our limited seating capacities with only having our patio until kind of mid-July. Our RB Eats delivery program. Obviously this was our only program for a while. Definitely saw some successes and challenges, but our main focus with this program was to deliver a service to residents in time of need. Obviously, Simon mentioned earlier, many residents were just returning from down south, or they were forced to return early, and we've really felt that this was the service was the best option given the situation. Definitely had an adaptive approach based on feedback from the community. And pleased to say that we did over 1,800 deliveries from mid-March to mid-June, which was great. And in total, 94% of our homes actually utilized this service at least once. We also got creative and had some feature nights, rib nights, etc. We did some holiday dinners that fell in that time frame. I think we did a Father's Day as well as a Easter, and obviously a safe alternative for residents. I think overall we were very pleased with how the initiative was executed and received by the community. It's definitely something new for us, and we appreciate all the understanding as we adapted the operations in this form. Some challenges: minimal beverage sales. Although the AGCO revised liquor licenses to permit off-premise sales for takeout and delivery, we still had minimal beverage sales during this initiative. As we communicated earlier, beverage sales are certainly our highest margin items, so the impact was felt there. Limited capacity, high volume days and times, resulting in inability to fulfill orders and reduce staffing. With limited staffing resources and due to the popularity of the service, we were only able to accommodate a certain amount of delivery orders, and as such, we experienced certain times when we had reached our maximum capacity. I can assure you we tried our best to increase that as we went along, but it was definitely challenging. Menu development, need to be items that traveled well, and the takeout containers, limited supplies and options. This was definitely another area where we adapted as we progressed. Menus were specifically designed for items that would travel effectively, as well as distinguishing which items were better distributed in specific takeout containers. I know at one point we changed our fish and chips into more of a strudel kind of container, so some of the heat would come out of the container so it wasn't soggy. So just one example. Containers also became a bit of a concern due to shortages from suppliers, as many of the restaurants also transitioned to this takeout option. Our RB grocery program. Initial response was great, and although we had overall our orders declined recently with the easing of restrictions, we're projecting to continue this through the upcoming fall and winter months. It was definitely a new service. It was something that I think was well received. Obviously some of the successes and some of the benefits to it was very minimal labor required. We've actually had over 75 orders placed to date. And in the initial periods as well, it also allowed us to deplete some of our inventory. And really, I think the best benefit was it provided a safe alternative for residents versus the in-store purchases outside the gates. I think much of the feedback we received highlighted the fact that during the peak of this pandemic, many residents felt uncomfortable in going out to grocery stores, and it gave them a safer option. Obviously came with some challenges as well. Some inconsistency in stock from suppliers due to the COVID impact on the food supply chain. And not only with the RB grocery program, but in general terms. There was certainly an impact on the supply chain. It was greatly affected. There was many closures of food processing plants and distribution centers. And it resulted in many challenges in getting certain product that we wanted at the time we wanted it. And even receiving some product that wasn't up to our standards and having to turn it away. So it was definitely challenging from the kitchen's aspect. Keeping prices reflective of grocery stores, obviously resulting in some higher costs. We wanted to make sure there was still some value to the residents with this program, and wanted to stay competitive with the retail pricing as much as we could, but obviously would result in some higher food costs. And then just constantly maintaining stock and ensuring we have the product available for the residents. Member golf events. It's always been an important part of our revenue stream and our operations, and it was really important that we provided some innovative ways to kind of maintain this stream throughout our club events, even though we couldn't have the group gatherings that we've typically had in the past. We really adapted the execution based on the event, And tea time certainly did allow for more participants, which from a golfer point of view, I'm sure you've seen that in many of the events. Each event was unique in how we managed the execution. Tea time certainly provided the opportunity for larger participation and in turn greater opportunity for revenue perspective. Communication with the golf department, constant communication and support from both the golf department and the golf committee were certainly a key to us doing what we did this year. Some challenges, once again, the lack of beverage sales, without the socializing aspect and having the large groups together is definitely our beverage sales, whether wine, beer, liquor, et cetera, certainly had a reduction there. Timing based on the pace of play and something new, a learning curve. I think any new initiative, there's always going to be growing pains to sort out, and I think we handled it well and made the necessary adjustments as we progressed. Meal restrictions based on what traveled well and meal on the go. Menu selections provided another challenge. Some events prefer to have meals to go on the course. Others opted for meals after the event, and sometimes it was a combination of the two. So I think, although it was a challenge, I think we responded well with respect to that. Member dining. Obviously, some of our highlights here we're providing that safe environment, COVID-19 protocols. I think our team took a lot of pride ensuring that we were providing a comfortable and safe setting for our community. As Simon's mentioned, and I think I've mentioned to numerous of you in person and through communication, this has always been our top priority. Is we want to make sure that when our residents come here, they feel safe. So we took the COVID protocols very seriously and diligently, and at times it wasn't fun for residents, but it was definitely needed, and I think the end result has turned out for us well. Engaging dining events, dinner features. One initiative we received some positive feedback was our recent edition of the 3-course dinner specials, and some of the feedback it's from residents is that it's more of an upscale dining experience, and it's something that they may have typically gone outside the gates for in years past. So it's nice to see them being able to do that here at RiverBend. Continued use of RB Eats curbside takeout. We obviously have seen a massive spike in our takeout business this year, and we're going to continue to see that large increase from years past. And I think that's going to project through the upcoming fall and winter as well. And that, I guess the one downside of having, or the positive side of having the reduction in banquet events is we've definitely been able to shift all of our focus on the resident experience. So we haven't been split into 5 different directions and flipping rooms over here for banquets and taking care of this and that. It's I think we've been able to really kind of streamline our focus on our members that are coming in and doing it safely. Some challenges: COVID-19 restriction, reducing seating capacity. I think obviously the current mandated restrictions have definitely impacted many aspects, particularly in the early stage when we only had the limited seating of the patio. Balancing our indoor dining demand with takeout demand. As we transitioned in phase 3 with the indoor dining, we became faced with some new obstacles in managing both diners in the clubhouse and those wanting takeout. The pre-ordering aspect that helped make our Beats delivery so successful had to be altered, and this at times results in some of our resources being stretched thin, ultimately restricting what we could do effectively. And you'll probably see this continue as we move forward. And I think those of you maybe have been here for Thanksgiving or dine with us through takeout Thanksgiving, we're really going to make a conscious effort to ensure that we're, while we can, still providing the indoor experience, but also very cautious of the fact that there's many residents still fearful of coming indoors and still having some kind of takeout option. Menu variety, reduced staffing, food supply chain, health and safety measures. I'm going to touch on more a little bit and then some coming slides on menu variety, because I feel it's an important topic for us, as well as food consistency. The consistency has always been one of our constant challenges here, and it'll remain a key topic of discussion as we move forward. And then obviously some of our new standard safe operating procedures have provided a challenge, whether it's the time involved, the effort involved, the physical strain on the bodies, etc. Menu variety and changes. This has proven to be one of our biggest challenges in really balancing the protocols as well as the desire for larger menus and more frequent changes. It's been a tough balance for us. Obviously, many of our residents were not going outside the gates to restaurants. They were coming and dining more often, which was very positive for us. But at the same time, we had some challenges in really expanding that menu. We had to do it in a very methodical way. More expansive menus is more daily prep and it's more staff. And the reality is, in our early stages, our focus was minimizing the amount of kitchen staff and staff in general, as we really wanted to do everything we could to reduce any potential exposure to ourselves, to the residents, to the guests. So this resulted in reduced capacity for prep and obviously the need for a bit of a reduced menu. Once again, as stages progressed, we increased staffing slowly but surely, and ultimately provided further expansion during stage 2 of the opening of indoor dining, and then subsequently reaching kind of full menu size in August. Some additional challenges: the impact of the supply chain that I touched on earlier, some inconsistencies in receiving products and restrictions. We really wanted to make sure we weren't really promoting too many of the shareable items, minimizing the amount of deliveries and the overall quantity of suppliers being used, making sure that we're not, having too many deliveries in a week and too many different companies coming in, and once again, potentially exposing outside factors. So I'd like to thank all the residents for their understanding and cooperation as we navigated through the pandemic. We understand that these challenges impacted your experience, particularly with our menu variety, but we needed to ensure safety was our highest priority. 2020 fall and winter. We, as Jerry mentioned, as well as Simon, we do obviously anticipate more residents remaining here at RiverBend during the winter months and fall and winter months. As a result, we're going to be developing initiatives to maintain the resident engagement, increasing our frequency of menu changes. We are having a schedule that will be rotating of a 3-week rotation on our menus. Maintaining our full-size menu. Typically this time of year when the golf course closes, we would have a reduced menu, giving a lot of residents going down south. This year we're going to maintain the full size, so we will not be having any reduced menu. Continuation of some of our dinner special evenings. We're going to have some additional theme and feature nights, once again touching on the indoor aspect as well as having some version of a takeout option. And increased accessibility to services during the winter months. I received many questions and comments from residents regarding this, and we are confident that we'll have a much larger group of residents here this winter. So we're looking at various options for this increased accessibility to services, while obviously balancing the financial impact as well. So January through March, we're currently looking at having our RB Eats delivery and curbside pickup available for dinner on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and then maintaining our Thursday through Sunday indoor dining service, as well as anticipating quite a bit of the RB Eats curbside pickup. And we are going to maintain our grocery service throughout the fall, winter months. So we're going to continue to monitor the schedule, and we'll adjust accordingly based on numerous factors involved with COVID-19, including the resident comfort levels for indoor dining, as well as any potential restrictions that may be mandated. If we look ahead to 2021, COVID-19 has obviously provided us an opportunity to look at how we operate and reinvent strategies to improve our efficiency, focus on the resident experience, and develop innovative ways to keep our residents engaged. Our focus will remain on adapting our operations based on mandates and restrictions, and in a manner that prioritizes the health and safety of our residents, members, staff, and guests. If there's one thing that we've learned from this year, it's that things can change quickly. And it's important as an operation to be able to pivot and adjust your business model. I think it's still unclear as to what 2020 will look like, but we will continue to look at the best practices in our industry and develop strategies to keep our community safe and engaged. There still remain many unknown factors based on COVID-19. One of our biggest challenges in the recent budget process was the relative unknown of the upcoming year. How long will restrictions be in place? When will we be able to host large groups again? What's the potential that we're shut down again? What will our new normal look like? These are all answers. The answers to all these questions are all educated guesses at this point. But based on the current situation, we've kind of assumed the following timeline. We are assuming that these restrictions will be in place until approximately May. We're hopeful in May that the dining capacities may be increased at that point. And then by September, further increasing in capacity, as well as maybe some further restrictions lifted and back to kind of what our new normal conditions might be like. Operational changes during COVID-19, what will remain moving forward. As mentioned previously, many operational changes, it will certainly change how we do things as we transition forward. I think health and safety protocols, reservation policies, and initiatives like RB Eats and RB Grocery are definitely items that may become part of our new operational standards. 2021 action plan. We've identified some key areas of focus in the upcoming year that we feel, if addressed effectively, I think will all have a positive impact on the resident experience. Food consistency and variety will be and should always be a top priority for any private club F&B operation. It's always challenging to find the balance in your menu to accommodate the many desires of our residents, from the casual fare to the pub food to the upscale dining options. We're dedicated in finding creative ways to fulfill these various wants and needs of our community, and through the following strategies. So committing to increasing our overall variety through more frequent menu changes and features, and improved systems to ensure consistency in the food preparation, execution, and presentation. Number 2, our staff training and development. With many staff not being recalled this year, we're definitely in a rebuilding phase of our front of house team. Reviewing our training program based on new standard operating procedures, including health and safety protocols, to maintain our cautious approach to COVID-19. With such minimal amount of staff this year, we certainly feel like we're in a transition phase with our current team. And as such, we're going to definitely put an emphasis on revising our training program in respect to new procedures, as well as developing more efficient ways we can service our residents and enhance the overall experience. 3, resident engagement. Enhancing our dining experience through creative and engaging features, events, and theme nights, an adaptive approach to maintaining a variety of services such as RB Eats, takeout, and grocery. Our focus remains on making our clubhouse the dining destination of choice for our residents, particularly during this current pandemic. We must not only provide a safe environment, but we must execute events and experiences that create a wow factor for our community. In closing, on behalf of the entire food and beverage team, I want to thank all the residents for their patience, understanding, and cooperation during what has been a challenging year for us all. Your kind words of support and acknowledgement have been greatly appreciated, and we hope that you continue to have the confidence in our efforts to keep our community safe. Thank you very much, and stay safe.
Thank you, Sean. Very good, very comprehensive report, and definitely appreciate what you and your team have done this past 6 months. It's been a challenging 6 months, to say the least. I think inside food and beverage operations has probably been impacted more than any other services. So thank you for making sure that your staff are so engaged this year and providing great service. So thank you very much. So next up, I would like to invite Toby Stoley. Toby Stoley is our Director of Housing Operations, and he's going to report on both our London market and also what's taking place throughout. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Toby up, please.
Great, thanks, Simon. You're controlling the slides? Perfect. Yeah, so I thought I'd start by just giving everybody kind of an idea of what's happening in the London market. We have, in addition to RiverBend, we also have 6 other sites throughout the city and in Ingersoll and Ilderton as well. Residential construction market has been very strong, which just to me is contrary to the whole COVID-19. But construction is very active in all areas of the city. In September, we saw increases in starts for all dwelling types compared to 2019. And in September, the actual number of housing starts in the London region was 389, which is up from 290 starts in September of last year. Year to date, the number of single detached starts grew nearly 24% over the past year, while multifamily units actually went down 28%. So people seem to be gravitating more towards single detached homes, which could be part of the COVID. So next slide, Simon. Thanks. So some of the factors that are affecting the market, there's a lack of inventory in the resale market, quite a substantial lack of inventory. Typically, the average new home cost-wise is above what a resale home would be. And times when that lack of inventory happens in resale, then we see a significant increase in new home purchases. Due to COVID early in March and April, we saw many developers put the brakes on developments that they were bringing on board. And as a result, currently we're seeing a dwindling supply of lots for home builders, which just adds to the demand that we're seeing. So while they're not present in RiverBend, we're seeing investors from the GTA in a very large way. Again, we saw this back in 2017, which was a record year for London in terms of new home starts. So lack of supply and growing demand has actually increased the average cost of a home in London to $100,000. By way of comparison, back in February of 2019, we just surpassed the 400,000 mark. So in a year and a half, we've seen values escalate 30% in London. So that's really had a dramatic impact. In RiverBend, just like the rest of London, we've seen a very strong, a lot of activity in terms of sales as compared to 2019. So in terms of single detached in 2020, we actually had a very conservative budget coming into this year. So we only forecasted 6 new homes this year, and we will close 12 single detached homes before the end of December. In terms of the villas, again, conservative budget of 7, and we've surpassed that with 9 units. So our total budget of 13 projected sales has been exceeded with 21 sales, and that's reflective again at all of our different sites throughout the city. So looking at 2021. Where sales are continuing to be strong, very strong. We only have 1 villa over in phase 9 that remains available for sale. Our inventory homes have sold very quickly. We had a number of express, or some people may call them spec homes, and model homes, and we quickly went through that inventory through the year. So we will be starting 3 new models shortly, so that we're ready for the spring market. Our projected sales with closings in 2021 is 15. So of that, we have 12 single detached homes, and then 3 villas, which then that's assuming that we sell that last villa, which will happen imminently. And currently, we have 7 sales with closings in 2021. So COVID-19, I guess it was a little bit different for our industry in that construction was deemed an essential service, but it definitely has had a very large impact on overall construction schedules. When COVID first hit in late March, although we were deemed an essential service, Sifton New Homes paused construction for 3 weeks to put proper safety processes in place. We wanted to make sure that that our trades and our staff were all working safely, and we also needed to meet Ministry of Labor guidelines. The Ministry of Labor has been very active out on construction sites, making sure that the proper measures are put in place. So at the beginning, we did training for all of our staff and trades. We imposed physical distancing, so we restricted the number of trades that could come into a house. We had to lengthen schedules to accommodate that. We provided PPE for all of our staff and some of our trades, but they for the most part provided their own. We had to create signage to make people aware of the hazards of COVID out on the construction site. We set up wash stations. I'll show you a picture shortly, which you probably have seen throughout the community. We sanitize regularly. So we have one staff member that goes around and sanitizes all of the wash stations, the portable washrooms, and also all of the main touch points in a home under construction. That's done a couple of times a day. We have intake and tracking forms for staff and trades. So anybody coming in and out of a house, we're tracking that so that if an incident of COVID happens, then we're able to properly track who's been in that house. And then Tarion, which is the regulatory authority, deemed that that the pandemic had caused an unavoidable delay. So there were provisions made that we, as a builder, we sent out notices saying that because of the pandemic, closing dates could possibly be affected, and in some cases they were. I think overall we were pretty good, but we definitely had to move out some closing dates. So this is an example of a home where it was a model home, and just the signage that we had. We moved the portable washrooms close by, and then inside the garage, that's another example of the signage. And then inside the garage, we had more signage and created. You can go on to the next slide, Simon. We created these wash stations, and one of the requirements was we had to provide heated water. So we either utilize the hot water heater of the home, or in some cases we brought in little temporary water heaters. So these are just a few different things that we had to put in place to make sure everybody was working safely. So some of the other challenges that we've had. COVID-19 has also had a number of unexpected influences on construction and schedules. Schedules have been drawn out, and the high demand in the market has adversely affected the availability of many trades. I would say that we're just as busy as we were in 2017, and face the same sort of problems just in terms of trade availability. Availability of many supplies and products is becoming a challenge. Lumber, particularly pressure treated lumber, is extremely scarce, and prices have skyrocketed on lumber quite a bit. In many cases, again, probably outside of RiverBend, we're not able to complete decks before people move in. So it's had an impact on the closing of the homes. Interior doors have been very difficult to source. The two main manufacturers in Canada are out of Quebec, and they were shut down for quite an extended period of time. Most recently, in the past couple of weeks now, garage doors are very hard to come by, and our suppliers have quite a backlog, and garage door openers as well, which was very surprising, and again makes it difficult to close a home properly. So the lack of supply of materials and trades is driving construction costs up considerably. Lumber has seen a 50% increase. It's actually probably even higher than that, probably a 75% increase. As a result, we're carefully watching our costs, and and we've increased recently our selling price by 5%, and I think we'll continue to see those sorts of increases over the coming year. But despite all of the challenges that we've been facing, we are still selling homes in RiverBend, and we are able to complete them. Phase 10 is our newest phase. Servicing has just finished in phase 10, which is along the 16th fairway. And altogether, we have 8 homes going in there, and we're going to be starting construction there shortly. And then we're also, again, very active in phase 8 and phase 9. So despite all the challenges, we're still busy, and we're still selling houses and moving towards the completion of construction in RiverBend as we speak. So thanks, Simon.
Thank you, Toby. Appreciate that. Again, if you have any questions for any of Toby, Sean, or Jerry, please just put them into the chat feature, and we'll address those at the end of the meeting. So thank you, Toby, for your time tonight. It's greatly appreciated. So at this point, I'd like to move on to Owners Council. Tonight with us, we have the chair of Owners Council, Brian Morris. So Brian, if you are all set and ready to go, I think you should be unmuted and set. So the floor is yours, Brian.
Okay, thank you. Just a few words before I start my presentation. Our friend Elizabeth Hull passed away last month. She was a great lady and a wonderful member of this council. She cared very much about RiverBend and worked hard to make it an even better place to be. I'm very glad I had a chance to work with her. We will all miss her dearly. Thank you. To open my presentation, I'd like to start with the first slide, Simon, Owners Council slide. Thanks. I'm going to start at the bottom. These aren't in rankings of popularity. This is ranking in alphabetical order. I'd like to talk about Michael Spear. As you read in our recent email, Michael, who of course ran in our recent election and has stepped up to fill our vacant seat. Like the 2 others in the recent election, Michael will fill a 3-year term. Now on this slide, the folks obviously on the left, I just want to give you a quick rundown of what their tasks are within the council. Paul Enders has been involved with finance, past chair, and finance at the present time. Bob Banks is involved with the infrastructure committee. And I suspect going forward, the infrastructure committee will be much closer tied to the finance group as we move forward. Sharon Bryan has been our very patient secretary, taking minutes at our meetings. And Catherine Campbell-Moyer is our communications leader. She's kind of our quarterback in that area. She's also our wide receiver and coach. She does all the tasks and obviously does them very well. Faith Capern is our member at large. If you want to know what's going around RiverBend or what's happening, she's the one to turn to. Bruce Graham is chair of the finance committee, as well as our treasurer. I being the chair, and Brent Shea is also involved in infrastructure, as well as involved in some special projects. Michael Spear, as I say, just joined us, and his background is finance and wishes to partake in that particular area. You may notice on the right-hand side, the last term people were elected and when the term expires. As you can see, there is a turnover of 3 members per year for the next 3 years. So many people email me and others asking questions and concerned about what we're doing. And I'd only ask that perhaps next time around, next year, we have more people running for the council. I think new, fresh blood is a good thing. Simon, the next slide, if you could. Can you go to the next slide if you can? Thanks. Some of the highlights for the year, our communication, continuing semi-annual communications to the residents, thanks to Catherine and input from others. That has been well received, and we're going to continue doing that. The next is our first time online election. I didn't know exactly how that would go, but the count was very high. A lot of people participated. There are some issues we need to work out regarding emails, etc., that make it a little more seamless for the next time around, but obviously the system works. Special thanks to Tara for all her hard work in helping Catherine and Paul out in putting this together. Thanks, Tara. The next area which I'd like to talk to you about is near and dear to my heart, and it's about money. I'm going to put aside the monthly fee calculations that Rick Goyers distributed September 30th. As Simon will be briefing on that, as well as other financial areas. What I'd like to do for a few moments is I want to focus on the reserve funds with you. Keep in mind, we didn't have reserve funds until about 10 years ago. So there are 4 areas I would like to discuss with you briefly. One is the not-for-profit company, nor is there any pay. Number 2, the investment piece. 3 is the planning and forecast piece. And 4th is expenses. So first of all, the not-for-profit company. Well, as you see in the overhead there, the RiverBend Reserve Fund Association is a not-for-profit Ontario company incorporated to hold the investments of the clubhouse and the community reserve funds. So that's fine. That's what we have set up, and that is going well. And the first thing to make sure that we know the rules of the road for all those participating is we have a reserve fund investment policy. Now, if you had a copy in front of you right now, you'd say, boy, that's very conservative. And it is. And the reason it is conservative is because we are dealing with your money. So it is not taken lightly. And we, at the same time, want a return, but we are not looking for high flyers or something we can maybe make a fast buck or lose your money. The buyers for this investment fund, through this company, is a collaborative effort. We have a member from Owners Council, Bruce Graham, and from SPL, we have Dave Thompson, who is the Vice President of Finance and Administration. We've been working on a project of looking at investors with Dave for a long time, and the course we've taken now is a little different, but he is very much involved with the investment piece of this company. Just for you to know, we keep about 12 to 24 months cash on hand, and the rest is invested. What's our objective of all this? Well, we want to make sure we keep up with inflation. We do have some fees to pay along the way. When all that is taken care of, we try to have 1% clear after that. So if you think about it, if we had a 3% inflation year with some fees, call it 0.5%, we'd have to have a return of 4.5% to meet our objective. So how are we doing? What is the right amount to have in one of these funds? Well, the opinions are just like belly buttons. Everyone has one. And many say that 70% is a good number. Well, that's the number we're trying to strive towards, and we're right on track, and we're getting there. It's like a little bit like a mortgage. If we could expedite it and move it forward and have more money, but of course that takes more money per month, same as a mortgage. So we feel that the number we've gone to will get us to where we need to be. So that's the investment piece. The next is the planning and forecast. How the heck do we know where we're going? How do we know when we're going to get there? Well, the experts in this area we have hired are from a company called K-Smart. You probably heard us refer to that before. Those folks are experts at taking a situation like RiverBend and costing out everything. So the Owners Council and SPL sit down with K-Smart to review our status annually, more if need be. Keeping in mind that we're forecasting all replacements and all repairable costs out 55 years for the community and 30 years for the clubhouse. It's a long-range program. The objective is to cost out the RB, the RiverBend operation. So for any given year, we know what we should be expected to spend, and that goes into the plan. Now, the plan never goes exactly as we'd like it to go. Something will happen, something will fail earlier, etc. But the bottom line is we have the reserve fund to back that unexpected expense up, as well as paying for the bills within the reserve fund. Now, the expenses. There are meetings with SPL to discuss any unexpected costs or possible options pertaining to expenditures. So you say, what's our role in this? Well, when something comes up and it's expenditure that we didn't expect, or we have to deal with it, we talk, we meet. Probably a really good example of that is last late spring, Simon, who had given me numerous briefings and pamphlets on how much we're going to have to spend on furniture in the dining room, etc., chairs, it was very expensive. And the first thing he did is said, let's see if I can find some other portions within the SPL family that may need also furniture to keep the price down. He worked very hard at doing so. However, as we all know, COVID came along. So in a conversation when I was down south with Simon is, what do you want to do with this approximate $40,000 expenditure? We both agreed quickly that we should abort the mission and deal with it another time. We didn't want to spend the money within the pandemic period for lots of reasons. Primarily, no one would probably be sitting in the chairs, or very few, and we would just let the money sit there for a bit longer and hopefully make some money. So we agreed to hold off. That conversation, I would say, is somewhat typical. If something comes up, we have to move. Other times, for example, if air conditioners fail on the roof of the clubhouse, it's pretty obvious we have to get them fixed, get some estimates, and away we go. So that's the overview of the reserve fund process. And right now we're sitting in the fund approximately $700,000 plus. And we're doing just fine. We're getting there. We're not there in our director's mind. We think that we need a little bit more, but we're getting there. Last point I want to talk to you about is relationships. It's an unusual relationship for the members of council. We aren't the managers of RiverBend, but we are very much involved in the financial path. In 2019, all costs to run the RiverBend operation, as per the lease, your lease, is the responsibility of us. The finance committee is an example of how this works in terms of relationship with SPL. The finance committee meets quarterly with SPL, more often need be. They will meet prior to an owners council meeting to discuss any anomalies, know exactly what's going on. So the time we actually meet as a full council, we can get right down to work and look at the problems. I don't believe in making meetings theater. So the more we know about what's going on prior to a meeting, in my opinion, is a better way to go. Further, we are meeting with SPL regularly, discussing new and better ways to do business in general. In the lease, I'll refer to that one more time. In the lease, the relationship or the behavior of SPL, if you will, is to be reasonable. Well, from my experience, dealing with the SPL folks, particularly Simon and Rick Goyers, on a day-to-day basis, I find them most reasonable. We don't always agree, and sometimes we have a little go at trying to make my position or Simon's position the way to go. But we do work hard together, and I think we show mutual respect. I was involved with labor relations for many years, and I learned a long time ago to treat people just as I want to be treated. And if I were to sum up how we work with SPL, I call it diplomatic persuasion. We show mutual respect. We can debate. We do regularly, but I've never seen a case where we haven't been able to find middle ground. I hope this briefing helps you, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Brian. Much appreciated. And again, on behalf of SPL, thank you for the collaboration. I think we all know that we have the same shared goals, be it SIFT in the community or Owners Council. So thank you for working with us, and thank you for hearing us. And I think we listen to you too. So it's a very good working relationship. So thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on. If you can just mute yourself, Brian, that might help. We're going to move on to the financial review. And this is the last part of the meeting until we speak to a few questions. I've seen a few questions come in the chat, so we'll get to those shortly. So thank you for putting those in that section. So just to talk about the review, and again, we did send this out to all residents, so hopefully you've had the time to review it. Again, if you have any specific questions that aren't covered tonight, please don't hesitate to call me, contact me personally, and I'm always happy to answer those for you. So in regards to the financial review, as you can see, our 2020 budget, it is a balanced budget, and we are projecting the community to finish 116,216 as a surplus this year, so 7.8%. Combined with the clubhouse, where we're looking at a 62,320 deficit. So these are projections we made, just to keep in mind, these are projections we made as of the end of August, with 4 months till the go of the year, forecasting what kind of events or non-events we'll have, not quite knowing if we have the clubhouse open or not open, and also looking horizon if we're gonna have Christmas parties. So we're kind of having our like as Sean alluded to, our best guess, best assumptions, but we don't have that crystal ball. But all things being equal, we are forecasting an overall surplus of 53,896 at the end of the year. So I think we are in a good financial position. So just kind of speak about 2020 to go into a little more detail on what that looks like. In regards to community maintenance, as I suggested, we are looking at just over $115,000 surplus. Like the main reasons for this were definitely the government regulations that Jerry alluded to, that delayed our teams, delayed our landscape teams, and delayed what we could do irrigation-wise. So we definitely had some savings in labor for the first month or so. We actually found some efficiencies in our mulching applications. For the last 3 years, we've had an outside company, like you've seen that blower dual that worked for us, very efficient and well done. That company just wasn't able to facilitate that work this year. So Jerry's team took on that big project, and credit to them, did an amazing job. Probably took a little longer than they wanted, which we'll address next year by having an extra body, but we actually realized some significant savings with doing that work in-house, which we will obviously carry on doing in the years ahead. We had a late salt invoice from 2019 show up in our 2020 numbers, so it kind of overinflated our snow removal operations for this year. And obviously there has been no industry salt shortage this year so far, so we should be in good shape. But that's why the snow operations are a little bit inflated year over year. And education and training for our team members in our community maintenance team. Obviously, our conferences are all virtual, like this is tonight. So obviously, some savings there. In regards to clubhouse operations, and I think Sean spoke very eloquently in regards to some challenges we're having in regards to being over budget. So we are looking at being over budget by just over $62,000. First of all, there was some savings. The fact that the clubhouse was closed for a few months when COVID hit in March. So obviously, like we saved on some, be it like utilities, heating the pool, some hydro and things as such. So that definitely had some savings also in like repair and maintenance. Unfortunately, it coincided with member dining, weddings, large social events, all canceled, which obviously has an impact on our bottom line food and beverage. RV Eats was introduced, which definitely provided residents that takeout opportunity, which was good. Same for RV Grocery, the two services that definitely supplemented some of those losses. But as Sean alluded to, beverage sales are significantly lower. Obviously, when people order and people get food delivered, there's not typically alcohol involved in that, like a delivery service. We also saw some savings in our seasonal staff layoffs, some temporarily, some on a permanent basis. Obviously, our banquet staff have never come back, and hopefully we'll get those people back next year. So there's definitely some savings there. If we move on to a 2021 budget, and again, I think each manager has spoke to this, and I think this is probably, in my tenure here, like in 11 years, has been our most challenging budgeting process because, first of all, when you do a budgeting process, you look at your yearly results. And I think this year is a one-off, at least we hope it's a one-off. It has some very, very unusual circumstances. And the second part of the budget process you look at is looking at forecasting what your assumptions are for the next 16 to 18 months. So again, when we did this budget process in July and August, we had to look at what we forecasted happening, not just in our community and not just in our operations, but significantly the impact that COVID will have on our operations. And I think that's probably the most impactful on food and beverage. Trying to forecast what weddings will we have next year? Will we have weddings next spring? Will they be next fall? The weddings that take place next fall, will they still be the same size we've had now? Just because the government says weddings can take place, and hopefully they can in large numbers next year. What are everyone's comfort levels going to be? Are they going to be comfortable coming back? So again, a lot of assumptions. So we look at industry averages. We look at what everyone's looking at. We kind of review what our best guess is, and that's what our 2021 budget is predicated on. We don't have that crystal ball, unfortunately, but let's just hope things start to normalize this time next year. So again, overall 2020 budget, you can see our revenue lines there from Clubhouse Community, total revenues of $3,749,468. And our total expenses in the Clubhouse Community totaling $3,311,615. And G&A of a total of $437,853. So again, just what that shows is a balanced budget. So just kind of talk about what went into that thinking for the budget. Obviously, we're expecting community maintenance having a normal seasonal start. We're hoping our staff will start at the normal time frame. We'll see if that happens or not. Snow removal costs won't change year over year, even though there are more people going to be here this year, and we do know that. That won't impact Jerry's operations because those driveways have always been cleared. Salt costs reduced year over year, like I alluded to before, in regards to an invoice from last December showing up in January this year. We're going to realize some mulch savings year over year. We're anticipating a 3% wage increase for staff. Again, that's our forecasted and projected like at this time, and also adding a garden to the team. So if we are going to do that mulching in the house, like we'll need that extra person. So Jerry still has a full team there on hand. And based upon our industry experts and our on-site team, SPL is predicting a 5% increase in hydro and water based upon consumption and based upon what the industry is saying. From a clubhouse point of view, we are anticipating the clubhouse to remain open during 2021. That might change, especially what's happening right now, both locally and provincially. So we will see. We are expecting large events to start coming back slowly. Nothing until about the first half of 2021 is going to stay consistent. We're expecting that start of Q3 in July, like we're going to see some sense of normalcy. And then we're not expecting things to get back to normal, whatever that new normal is, and probably Q4 next year, which is pretty much a year from now. That's what we're forecasting. We're hoping the fitness and pool areas to be open, restrictions in place, limitations in place, which definitely will limit Kristen's ability to have classes and class size and number of participants. I know all these things obviously will have an impact on revenues, and that's how we calculate our budget, is based upon those assumptions, looking at our historical averages, see what's on the books, and then plan from there. Hydro and water we discussed the 3% wage increase. Repairs and maintenance, obviously additional usage if the building stays open. Cleaning, I mean, obviously COVID cleaning is probably one of the most important jobs right now, and we've had to hire another housekeeper in the building because keeping the touch points in the building clean is of paramount importance. As Sean alluded to, we'll continue with themed dining events, and we'll have RB Eats Tuesday through Sunday, and RB Groceries will continue as well. So just how that 2021 budget calculation works, just so everyone's clear, at build out we are forecasting to have 491 homes, which includes the phase 10 houses that Toby is selling left, right, and center. So, which is great. So the calculation is based upon 491 homes at 12 months equals 5,892 total months that people will be paying. We are forecasting as of the end of this year, or as of January 1st, 2021, we will have 448 occupied homes. It's only 43 to go before we kick Rick and Toby out of here. So 43 to go. So what that equates to is we'll have 448 occupied homes times 12 months, so 5,376 total months. In 2021, we are forecasting 15 new home sales. So part of the process that Toby does is not just forecast 15 home sales, but he also has to project when he thinks he's going to sell those homes, because that will determine when that homeowner will start paying those months. So we do the 15 homes based upon when they move in, and that works out to those 15 homes works out to 92 months. So again, our total occupied homes next year would be 5,376 plus the new residents of 92 months for a grand total of 5,468 months. I hope you understand that. If you don't, call me anytime and I'm happy to walk through with you. So from a community maintenance budget calculation point of view, we have total expenses of $1,456,673, G&A of $218,000. We have some other revenue like tree wrapping, like those types of services, which provides revenue of about $12,000. We also have to add in the villa discount. Right now we have 137 occupied villas. And as most of you are aware, villas pay $25 less like per home for community maintenance. So total expenses of $1,705,000 divided by the total months, like which we talked about, 5,468 equals a monthly fee of $311.82. The clubhouse calculation is slightly different because Sifton does pay for the unoccupied lots. So again, total revenue is just over $1 million. Direct expenses of just over 1.2 million. A G&A of 127. So a total shortfall in the clubhouse, that's entire clubhouse operations, includes social, includes fitness, includes pool, includes food and beverage, of 348,000. Divided by the total months of 5,468. So the 2021 monthly fee is $63.73. So that's the food and beverage, that's the food and beverage component and exactly how the food and beverage breaks down. So a shortfall of $348,000 divided by the months equals $63.73 like per residence. So the entire clubhouse calculation, as you can see from the total direct expenses, minus the F&B expenses of a net of $615,000. A G&A of $219,000, less the food and beverage, $127,000 of $91,000. Other revenue, and the other revenue could be fitness classes, it could be locker rentals, equates to $38,000, a total cost of $668,038. Divided by the total months full. So again, that includes the SBL contribution for the unoccupied lots, and it's calculated on the clubhouse component. So you have a monthly fee in the clubhouse of $113.38, plus a food and beverage fee of $63.73, and that equates to a grand total of $177.11. Again, any questions, please ask tonight or call me anytime. So this will already be sent out, but I definitely didn't want to speak to this. This is our overall fees for next year, which we notified the community on at the end of September. So providing 90 days notice. So for the community maintenance fee for a single of $311.82, $25 less for the villa, so $286.08. The total clubhouse fee for the total clubhouse operations is $177.11 for both villas and singles. And the clubhouse reserve and the community reserve, which Brian's already spoken to, so of $1897 for the clubhouse reserve and $1951 for the community reserve. So total fees for next year, $527.41, which equates to, I believe, like a 3.8% increase in operational costs. That's exclusive of reserve fund fees. Okay, so we're going to move on to questions. And again, thank you for bear with us tonight. And again, my apologies for the late start. I think we started around 6:20, 6:25. So we've been about an hour 20. So we've got some time for questions. So I'm just going to pull them up here. I got a few questions asked in advance too, which we'll address. And we'll answer these questions in order. Simon, I have no sound. I think we fixed the sound. Thank you, Tara. Tara is working in the background and she helps some people with some technical issues. So I think we fixed the sound issues. Okay. So 2 questions. These are some of the questions, one from Michael Hale and one from Tracy Hool. Michael Hale said, will it be a survey of residents to determine exactly how many will be remaining here in RiverBend this winter? That way should help Sean anticipate supply levels. And a similar question from Tracy Hool, would you consider a survey to see who is staying? So great question. It's something that we considered heavily at one point. The challenge with surveying people, and again, we've talked to probably about 20 or 30, at least myself, 20 or 30 different residents, is that 95% of people are staying here. But everyone's staying here only as long as they have to. So everyone I've talked to said, well, we hope to go in January. We hope to go when the border opens. We hope to go, when the cases go down. So we know very quite accurately, based upon even our home check services that our gatehouse staff facilitates, that it looks like we'll have between 90 and 95% of residents here full, like at least until January 1st. So that's definitely changed Sean's planning, what he's planning for availability, and that will continue in January based upon what's happening in the world. And again, I think I don't think a survey would have helped. It would have helped today and today only, but I think most people who are thinking of going down south will still want to go down south. So, but thank you for that question, Michael and Tracy. Brent Shea, just a comment. Congratulations, Sean, on navigating extremely difficult circumstances. Your team has done well. Thank you, Mr. Shea. Here's a question from Al Ross. I'll probably get Sean to answer this one. I'm just gonna grab Sean here. Second here. Okay, I think I've just got Sean. So the question from Al Ross is, why was the halfway house closed so early when the courses open till November? On the cold days, coffee and Baileys, that sounds good. Hot chocolate and hot dogs, etc. when we do bring a guest. It's unfortunate it's not available. In your experience, has it not been well utilized? Sean, do you want to speak to that briefly?
Yeah, sure, Simon, thanks. Thanks, Mr. Ross. So first off, there's a couple, when we close the halfway house at the end of September, that's traditionally when we've done it in every year past. So there wasn't a change from what we've done previously. I think the one exception this year where we were challenged was in years past, we still had our call box. So that call box, we would move up to our 19th hole area, so people would be able to call and we could rent stuff down for them, or they'd swing by the front of the clubhouse. And without that call box being activated this year because of obviously COVID reasons, we didn't have that ability to have those pre-orders or be able to kind of communicate with people on the course. So it was definitely a challenging part with that. And then this time of year as well, obviously with October, we've been fairly fortunate. We haven't had a lot of frost delay days, but once you hit that October, those days get a lot shorter. And there's a lot of potential with frost delays where it's, we're having to wake up early in the morning and see if there's a frost delay and push staffing back, and it becomes really challenging. So it really does kind of squeeze that day very short, and it becomes very consistent. But it's definitely something, like I said, timing is consistent with other years, but it's, I'm not opposed to looking at extending it if there's definitely a need there for it.
Thank you, Sean. Next question is from Catherine Pike Walters, and Sean, maybe you can answer this one too. And this is a great question. What steps are being taken to retain the excellent trained staff we currently have? And I think this is a question that we fight every year, and it's a challenge because we usually try and keep them for 3 or 4 years, once they finish their schooling. But it's also a challenge because we also know that some of those typically in a typical year, when you got these bars and busy restaurants open and all those cash tips, which can be pretty lucrative, but maybe that bar business won't be quite as lucrative for the coming time. So we might have a better chance. But Sean, anything to add to that?
Yeah, sure. Obviously our focus, we had very minimal staff, but we really wanted to, if we were going to bring staff back, we wanted to bring a few amount, but be able to give them a lot of hours. And I think that's the key right now is being able to give somebody enough hours that they can survive. And obviously other reasons for the minimal staff was COVID related. But like I said, we have some great staff. You know, keeping them on board and keeping them happy with the amount of hours and being able to support themselves is key. And I think the other thing was the ones that we did bring in. I think we brought in a couple of new staff this year that are kind of in that first year of, let's call it their 4-year kind of university/college phase. So so we're hopeful that those, you know, those key people, those 3, 4, 5 staff that we have right now are going to be kind of key pieces as we develop moving forward. You know, Molly's been a great asset for us, and she's been a great help with training a lot of our new bodies we brought in. But she's also, you know, at that phase in her life where she's moving on to her career likely next year. So so we're definitely are aware of where we're at with our team and how we want to kind of build moving forward. So thanks for the question. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Sean. That's a good answer. And I think we're always looking at ways to incentivize staff, and you know and I think one of those things is our auto grat. And I think when we first implemented that auto gratuity, I think 15% gratuity was considered pretty good 10, 12, 14 years ago. Unfortunately, it's not anymore. You know, I think average now in the service industry, like it or not, is about 18%, and I think 20 is considered normal. So again, if we want to keep staff, that's part of it. It's a bigger discussion, obviously, which we'll have with you, Catherine, Horse Council, but I think that 15% is probably low. So we have another question from Catherine Campbell-Moyer in regards to comments about the staff. Thank you. Have plans for the apartment project in the community progressed? So just so everyone's clear, what Catherine is asking here is about the apartment complex that is part of the design, and it's going to go in between the clubhouse building and the 10th hole. It's always been on the plans. So the current status is, yes, we do have some preliminary blocking plans, but we haven't progressed with it because we don't want that to jeopardize like the completion of our singles and villas. So it continues to be market driven based upon what that looks like in the next 3 to 5 years. So it is still in the plans. It is still the plans like to progress, but it'll be definitely market driven. Next question, just says Margaret. I'm not sure which Margaret that is. It's Margaret Shorten, but correct me if I'm wrong. My apologies. It says the question from Margaret is, I know that Sifton sold the property adjacent to the gatehouse a few years ago. Given the demand for villas, would Sifton entertain buying back property to build villas there? There doesn't seem to be anything happening there, and it is a rather unsightly entrance to our community. And definitely would agree with you right now, Margaret. It is definitely unsightly, definitely something that's kind of controlled. So just so you know, that area is zoned by the city's neighborhood commercial division. So going through a zone change is quite challenging and likely wouldn't be approved. We had actually, and I say we, Sifton has actually did some villa plans on that area, but the yield just would not make the buyback feasible. So considering it is now zoned for commercial. So not an option this time. We are always trying to get that developer to keep that area clean, and I think as West 5 is developing so amazingly well, I think we'll see that develop soon. So next question I have, and maybe Toby can answer this one if you know Toby, from Mr. Rob Ditchfield. Where will the model homes be built? Toby, you want to speak to that?
Sure. Yeah, we have 2 models in phase 8 going on to lots 11 and 13, about halfway down Mo Norman, and then we will be building another model over where the construction trailer used to be over in phase 9, just so that we can sort of spark some construction in that area. We haven't had any sales there yet, so we'll be eventually be building a model home there.
Perfect. Thank you, Toby. The next question looks like it's for Owners Council, so maybe Brian can answer this one. This one's from Michael Hale. Based upon previous situations, I thought Michael, I assume you mean Spear, would complete Elizabeth's term, not start a 3-year term. Brian, do you want to speak to that?
We looked at that, and the timing was perfect where if things were different within a few weeks, we would have been running 3 people for a 3-year term. So it was just a matter of timing that would have changed that. So that's how we came about the 3-year term. The same as everyone else who was running this in this round.
Thank you, Brian. And any follow-up questions, I'm sure Brian can definitely would be happy to take those emails for you, or emails to Owners Council. Next question is from Bruce Fairless. Where do we stand in 2020 relative to the food and beverage deficit? What is the cost to each household going forward? So I think that was discussed in the finance report. I believe it is $63 per household is the deficit. That is that part. And option B to that question, it says, does the council ever project that the food and beverage deficit can be eliminated? If not, what strategies are in place to change the mode of operations so we can eliminate the deficit? So it's asking council, Brian, but maybe I'll speak to that first, because it kind of puts you in a tough spot, because food and beverage is a question that we get asked a lot. And I think if you were owning a restaurant, you would never have a restaurant that would have a select group of 800 people, with a third of them leaving for sunnier pastures in the wintertime. So for a standalone restaurant, definitely a big challenge to be self-sufficient. It is definitely an amenity, and I think a lot of it will, Bruce, depend on what happens with COVID. And I think that banquets and events are a big part of our margins. And then we have to decide if they're going to be part of what we do going forward, and if they don't, what that looks like. So, Brian, do you want to speak to that at all, or anything you want to add?
Well, basically, one thing I was going to mention earlier tonight was that I called the clubhouse amenity house because it holds all our amenities. So I was thinking that if you were to come into RiverBend for the first time and someone was showing you around, and you say, well, by the way, here's this building that incorporates a gym and a swimming pool and meeting rooms and card rooms and a dining room and what have you. And how could we manage that in a way that it isn't always a financial negative? And we're looking at ways to maybe reduce the problem going forward. We haven't got that far into the study, but we know that every amenity here, and amenities is something that we want to have, and doesn't make any money, and we fight so hard to make that better by weddings, etc. Of course, through the operation, but we know where this is going financially. There's no use kidding ourselves.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Thank you for the question. Let me just see here. Okay, next question is from Michael Hale. And the question is, are the new homeowners of the large property being built south of phase 10 going to be paying fees for road maintenance and snow clearing? So yes, that homeowner, which is one of the 2 private residents, which been here prior to Sifton owning like the property, do contribute to both the clubhouse and community roads and gatehouse. It's a portion of what other residents pay because we don't do their landscaping and gardening and all that. But yes, they do contribute to the roads. Yes, they do contribute to snow clearance, and yes, they do contribute to the gatehouse operation. So good question. Thank you, Michael. A question here for Sean from Rebecca Harrington and Dave Staines. We first raised the issue a couple years ago for wheelchair or disability accessible doors to be added to each of the main floor washrooms in the clubhouse. Currently, a disabled or wheelchair bound person who is in the clubhouse for a meal may be able to force their way into the bathroom, but they cannot exit the bathroom as the door opens inwards. There should be automatic bathroom doors to provide accessibility for all guests in the clubhouse. Has there been any progress in this? So I'm not sure if you want to speak to this, Sean, or not, because that's probably more a question for me. And that's like we'll have to investigate, Rebecca, to see what is or isn't possible. yeah, it hasn't been brought to me previously, but definitely something that we need to look at. Obviously, disability access is extremely important. There are costs involved for those things, but obviously it's definitely beneficial to ensure accessibility to all. So I will make a note to get back to you on that, Rebecca. Unless you have anything to add, Sean, but.
No, I think that's it, Simon. I know I've had some preliminary looks into what, codes and such, but it's definitely something I think we should look more into moving forward, definitely.
Okay, next question is from Murray. I'm not sure which Murray, probably Murray Huffman. The question is, does it seem fair that new homeowners inherit their share of the reserve fund? Should SPL not be contributing to reserve funds until the lots are sold? Has Owners Council calculated what SPL is potentially responsible for all lots not contributing to the reserve fund? So I'll let question 2, Brian, if you want to speak to that, but we contribute to operations, and we always have since the start of this community 19 years ago, which Murray's very, very aware of, and have covered any and all deficits and budget overages for those first 18 years. There is a developer contribution, not specifically for reserve funds, and Sifton has always and will continue to pay for that developer contribution for the gatehouse and clubhouse operations. So, Brian, I'm not sure if you want to add to that or not. I got to unmute you again here, but let me go here. There you go, Brian.
Is that okay there now?
Yeah, you good.
Perhaps, yeah, I know he's here. Is Bruce nearby? Because he may be able to give a better answer than I. Bruce Graham?
Not sure if Bruce is on there, but there's one Bruce on there. Not sure if that's Bruce Graham.
Yes, I am, Simon.
Bruce, do you want to speak to that at all, or no?
Well, I don't really have a lot to add, honestly. I think to the first part of Murray's question, a reserve fund, yes, it is fair that new homeowners inherit their share of the reserve fund, given that those assets have depreciated prior to them moving in. So absolutely it is. I understand that the SPL contributing to the reserve funds was the subject of some debate at previous owners' councils, and I think positions were made, and the decision was that the contributions that you make for unsold lots with respect to the security operations and the clubhouse were the extent of what Sifton was going to contribute. So I don't know that there's a lot of value in readdressing that. I think what's key is, as Brian mentioned when he was discussing the reserve funds, is that we move forward to ensure that we do have adequate reserve funds, and that it is an equitable situation for both existing residents and future residents. And those are the things that would determine an adequate reserve fund. And that's what the council is striving towards. And certainly I think the discussions we've had with you, Simon, I think you're on board with that. And I think we're going to keep working down that path. And, hopefully in the next several years, we get to a point where we're in that position.
Thank you, Bruce. Appreciate you answering that. We'll move on to next question is from Tracy Houle. It says, would we consider just a food minimum? So I'm assuming what Tracy alludes to here is, instead of having a fee for a food and beverage deficit, would we, for instance, and this actually question came forth from someone prior to the meeting, why not just double the food and beverage minimum, which has been considered, but it wouldn't solve the issue. Just having people spend more is not going to all of a sudden make the food and beverage operations profitable. It won't. It will help, but it won't solve it. We rely right now a lot on events and things, and the margins for a la carte dining, especially with such a seasonal community we have here, is not going to solve that issue. So good question, Tracy, but if I haven't answered your question what you wanted, just please let me know and give me a call. This is from, it just says iPad, so I'm not sure who that is, but it says iPad to everyone. Is management aware of any COVID infections having occurred amongst the residents of RiverBend? No, we are not aware of any infections since March. So nothing that we're aware of, but great question, and nothing's come to our attention. Next question from Michael Hale. Did our RiverBend make use of the SUS? And that is the, there's a couple different government plans that have been put in place. This one specifically talking about the wage subsidy plan. No, we were not eligible to take advantage of any of those government grants or government subsidies. Sifton's a very diverse company obviously, with diverse business interests. So unfortunately, we were not eligible for any of those government assisted programs. Next question from Dave and Carol Sewell. Can you enlarge on what all is included in the G&A account? Definitely I can tell you that, Dave or Carol, whoever answer that question. That is definitely the SPL administration fee, plus any kind of general administration costs. It could be fees and licenses, like the fees for our Jonas computers, does all our software in the clubhouse and all our billing. Like it could be credit card charges that we get charged from Moneris. So those types of extra general and administration costs are all kind of rolled in together. But I can definitely speak to those specifically to you if you want to give me a call. Bruce Fairless, thanks for clarification. Food and beverage festive. Let's hope okay. I hope management will consider other delivery and service styles for the dining room. Yeah, definitely. I think we have to keep looking at different options, different creative options, especially with the circumstances we have. Next question we have here is, okay, last question that I have here is, Paul Andrews' Tracy question was not answered. I have asked this question before. Why is the booze included in the minimum spending? Sorry, if I misinterpreted that question. Some clubs include booze in the food and beverage. Some clubs don't. I think if we didn't include booze, I think there'd be a riot here. But definitely an option. Definitely is an option, only to have it food related. We decided not to do that, include both, but definitely something we consider. Paul and Tracy, a good question. Nothing's off the table, but and perhaps it's something that we could ask in a survey. I'm not sure if most would go for that, but again, definitely a good thought. So Marion Furlick is asking, is it industry standard in the city for a 3% wage raise considering COVID? Great question, Marion, and I think there's no playbook there. I think what we do as a company is to try and look at other industries, also our own industry, other similar type clubs, and to also look at, it kind of ties into that retaining staff question. You know, it's kind of one or the other. You know, all increases are looked at on an annual basis based upon, you know, both subjective and quantitative measures, and we look at like performance-based incentives. So nothing is set in stone, but we do the budget process. 3% would be standard, and I think that's part of the reason why we've had a lot of success like retaining staff over the years, because Sifton has been a good employer and understands the importance of keeping and retaining good people. So okay, that's those questions. I had a couple before we finish here, a couple questions that came in ahead of time, so just going to quickly read them. The first one was from Doug Newton. Doug Newton wanted to know more about reserve funds, so I think we've covered most of this, but he says, I know we pay for them, but how are these funds used? Who decides how the funds are used and how much? Also, how much money are we talking about these funds? So like Bruce talked to and like Brian talked to, Owners Council and Sifton collaborates extensively now on reserve funds. We did solicit a reserve fund study 9 years ago through Brown and Beatty. We now switched to K-Smart 4 years ago. This study determines the lifespan and replacement cost of all our capital equipment, both in the community and also in the clubhouse. This reserve fund is updated on an annual basis. They're actually on site every 5 years. So next year they're gonna be on site again, looking at the equipment, seeing what the state of repair is and seeing what looks like it needs to be replaced. And then we review those expenditures with Owners Council. You know, we typically get 3 quotes, but similar to what Brian talked about, like we had you know, $40,000 allocated to furniture, new furniture in the clubhouse this year. We were all set, ready to go in February. Then COVID hit, and we said, no, not the time. Let's put a hold on that cost. And we spoke to Owners Council, and we recommended Sifton to kind of hold off on those expenditures. So there is a collaboration there. We do discuss, and that the balance as of the end of August, just so you know, in the community reserve fund is just over 493,000, and in the clubhouse reserve fund, just over 246,000. So I think that answers those questions. Another question about the clubhouse minimum. Any thought of increasing it, you know, to make it more equitable? So definitely, you know, more equitable for the big spenders, something we've looked at, but again, increasing that from beverage minimum doesn't solve the issue. Another question here from Gary Mitchell talking about the government loans, the wage subsidies. You know, did we benefit from it? Like we've already discussed that we were not eligible. And the last question I have here was just about the library. When's the library going to open? He's asked. No one can understand why the library was closed the last few months. So the library is going to start reopening. It's definitely looked after by our social committee who do an amazing job of keeping those books in order. And yes, it's close to everyone's heart. We wanted to make sure when we did start taking books back, they were taken back in a safe manner so people could borrow, return safely. So I think, again, it comes back to our overall goal is to do everything we do slow and steady for the safety of our residents and staff. So I just got a couple last questions here before we go in the chat here. Considering the G&A account line items would explain more. This is a very inclusive and could include the cost of doing business, which shouldn't be passed to consumer in this manner. We are already being charged an expense. I'm not sure what the question there is, but there is discussion in more detail with council when we do review quarterly statements with Owners Council in obviously more detail. We actually also meet myself with the finance group of council on a quarterly basis now. So there is more discussion had, you know, with your voices on council. Jamie Hughes is asking, when do you expect the construction traffic to be finished traveling on Jack Nash? We were advised in last year it would just be a few weeks and it continues 10 months later. There are large trucks traveling just after 7 a.m. some mornings. I can probably let Toby answer this, but again, I think COVID changed a lot of things in the construction business, and I think it delayed things and delayed services and delayed contractors. So we hopefully are going to have those things wrap up. I mean, thankfully, in phase 10, we're having some really great traction in selling homes, and we already have, I think, 5 up there sold, Toby. But any kind of guesstimation, Toby, from your end there for in regards to large trucks?
Well, in terms of the servicing, that is complete, and that would have been the sort of heavy equipment going in and out and trucks going in and out. We will still have that. I'm not quite sure who advised that it would just be a few weeks, but we will be constructing these homes really over the next year and a bit. We will be very careful, and Jack Nash has been designated as a route for construction traffic right from day one that I've been here, and so we will make sure that that construction traffic does go that way and out through the construction entrance. and we'll also ensure that that roads are swept and kept clean as well. But we're the heavy machinery and heavy trucks will be at a minimum now, except for the times that we're excavating and doing foundations.
Thanks, Toby. Great. Just got a note here from Catherine Pike Walters. Library will open next week. Thank you, Catherine, to you and your committee for that. And the last question we have here is from Miriam Edmondson. Do non-resident golfers pay into the clubhouse cost, and where would that show up? So yes, non-resident golfers have access to the building in the summer season for about 7 months of the year, and they do contribute the clubhouse fees during those 7 months. So and typically we see that the golfers do tend to contribute quite well. So actually I got one more question here. They keep coming. That's good. Ken Harlock, in 2019, you added $52.10 per home to the clubhouse fee to cover the projected F&B shortfall. You advised an additional $11.58 of cost arose following the reconciliation of actual audited costs to projected costs included in setting fees. How have you accounted for the additional cost in the fee structure? Great question, Ken. So this is something that I neglected to mention in my financial report. So yes, every year now there is a reconciliation against our audited statements. So in April, we sent out a letter, April 21st, we sent out a letter that's saying that we had a shortfall of approximately $82,000. So there was an assessment for each household of $138.98. This happened right during COVID, and we decided to delay that reconciliation until November 1st. So each household who were here for the full year in 2019 or prorated, they just moved in, like you'll see an assessment of $138.96. So that process will again happen on an annual basis once we get the audited statements, which typically happen in February. 2020 right now, it's a standalone year. So I think that's your question, Ken, how you kind of combine them. So 2019 will be finished this year and assessed in November. And then our 2020 statements will be reconciled in February. And if our forecasting correct, we'll be in a positive position. So all good questions. Thank you very much. Thank you for your involvement tonight. Thank you for your patience when we went through some technical issues on our first time in Zoom for this kind of format. And I do appreciate everything that you provide for the community. I definitely want to thank our speakers tonight and our panelists. Thank you for your time and energies on a weeknight at this time of night. And best of wishes to the entire community. Again, like I said, this has been a very challenging season, a very challenging year, something that we'll all look back upon in 2020. So definitely appreciate your support. Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for living in this community. So for that, good night, stay healthy and safe, and all the best to you and yours this fall. Take care.